Good afternoon. Welcome to the Daily Live Extra. Apologies for lateness today. We were going to do live show as normal at 1 o'clock. Ped's at a funeral and the press conference at 2 o'clock, so we thought we'll wait till after the press conference. Normally we are not on YouTube on a Wednesday with the press conference, but with the press conference reaction, we thought we'll go live today on YouTube and do a little preview and reaction.
So we're on Premiere and YouTube.
We are on Premiere and YouTube today,
Okay,
so everybody
cool.
can watch. I am joined by...
You get Ned as
Yeah, exactly. A little difference today. I'm joined by John Blaine
for change.
for his expertise on
I tell you what, changing our schedule for the press conference was probably a mistake, wasn't it? Because nothing's been said.
Yeah, well, not really.
Proper music.
Yeah, exactly. But I thought we normally do this conference reaction on YouTube and get some people's opinions on what has been said.
Yeah,
so if anybody wants to give us opinion on Blossom's new music video and Sean Dyche's acting performance, then give us a shout.
I hope they didn't pay him for it. That's all. That would be my view.
It was a big promotional. It was good exposure. That's what they normally say. It couldn't be in our video. It was good exposure.
Okay. So the business end of it is DCL's fit, Beto's fit.
Both,
Seamus is physically fit, but has only been on the grass for a day.
Well, he's had one day in training. I imagine they'll
He'll be
train
on the bench
tomorrow. Probably travel after training and then have a little training Friday morning down at Luton.
So that sounds like minimal bench type thing for Seamus, which is good.
Well, Godfrey's been
got
performing, hasn't he?
three centre forwards to choose from.
Yeah,
Maybe you'd go all in and have at least two of them playing.
I think I was surprised. I don't want. This sounds kind of harsh on the team, but I thought the Brentford game would be. I didn't expect us to get 3 points, to be honest, because I thought we would be knackered. Schmitty's up front. He's not quite. He's not had a lot of game time as he in the Premier League.
Mate. Yeah,
but
yeah,
he couldn't fully get into the game, but he done okay.
I think he showed enough to know there's a player there.
and I think we've seen Everton teams.
By the way, if you disagree, just holler.
But we've seen Everton teams in the past year without a striker up front and completely look like we've got no shape.
Sure.
No, even when we played like even a Damari Gray there, but they still looked okay on Sunday. And I kind of don't want that week to end. It has ended, but like the aftermath of it, we've won the last 3 games. We've won 4 out of 5 now.
Yeah. Let's make it 5 out of 6 then.
Exactly. But going into this Luton game, I just hope that we don't lose that competitive edge because we're now safe.
There's only that goddamn Chelsea game that spoilt April.
Yeah, I think that was just I think the manager admitted that some of that was on him, and the players just couldn't take the tactics. Yeah. He set up totally wrong for that one. But
we're playing tomorrow, and 11 days. There's going to be 4 games in 11 days, isn't it? So.
Yeah, well, that's it. I'm just glad that we're safe now, and this is probably it's the earliest we've been safe for a few years now. So it's a chance to look at what Sean Dyche maybe wants to do without the added pressure of relegation. We've still got some teams that we'd easily expecting to beat with Sheffield United and Luton.
You didn't think we beat Brentford, but were easily expected to beat Luton.
Well, no one knows we'll lose these 2 games and then beat Arsenal away in the last game of the season, stop them winning the league. But it is a chance now to see what we're like with the pressure taken off a little bit. We're getting some players back. Dominic Calvert-Lewin, hopefully, get some game time on Friday. He is now our joint top scorer, and he should be our top scorer, really, isn't he? He's our number 9.
I don't think we'll see anything different. Myself, I don't think what we've seen is a overtly cautious manager because of the circumstances we found ourselves in.
Yeah.
I think that's the way he is, right? But clearly the players themselves may be better able to execute his instructions because they are feeling, well, clearly we're not going to be feeling the stress of potential relegation.
Less weight off the shoulders.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can look at Burnley, right? Burnley are on a cracking run. They've lost 1 in 8, which was to us, to a bit of dopey goalkeeping, right? On their behalf. And after a season of being turned over regularly, all of a sudden they're difficult to beat. Now, of course, some of that would be who have they been playing. But if you play 8 games, you've got a good mixture in there. The reality is they accepted they were getting relegated. A little bit of pressure comes off because of that. And lo and behold, they're going to put pressure back on themselves now
Yeah.
because there's a little glimmer that they could get away with not getting relegated. So it's a good game in that sense. And let's see what our guys are like when they have got that little bit of freedom.
We've seen that before, haven't we?
It's not a huge amount, that comes off pressure-wise. It might be 1% of some of the performance, and
but those
makes a big difference.
Little differences, little details. We've seen it with teams before when they get, they've been relegated earlier on mathematically, and then they start having a few good results. Seen it with Fulham against us, a couple of seasons ago, and I think that's just where every touch when you're getting beat every week, every time the ball's coming to every touch you take, every pass you make, you're overthinking about it because you're under pressure.
Not consciously, but you're right.
Subconsciously you're under pressure to not make mistakes. But I think once those, that pressure gets lifted a bit, you probably find yourself improving, and hopefully Everton don't relax too much or go and play with a bit of freedom, a bit of, like we said in the press conference, go and enjoy it professionally. But go and enjoy it. Go and beat Luton 4-0 because you can enjoy it. You can get at them a little bit. You're not worried about getting beat.
No, I think you're right, Ned, because the little bit of reduction in stress, you've still got professional stress of wanting to win, wanting to play well, stuff like that. But it can't go too far and become flip-flop time because Luton, they have got something on it. So they've got the stress. So let's pretend you both start at 100 or a number. It's a bit like they'll perform at 99 because of stress. We need to perform at 101 because we're slightly relaxed, but not 105, which is, you know what I mean? Like, where's my sunglasses sort of thing. So, but finishing the season with a good series of wins will hold us in good stead for next season. And then go to Arsenal on the last day with an intention, as you would in normal circumstances, of not losing. So come away from Luton with a result, beat Sheffield at home, which we should, and then avoid defeat. And suddenly you're saying, well, they finished the season, with whatever it is, 7 or 8 games undefeated.
Yeah, and hopefully
18-9 undefeated. Just with that Chelsea thing in the middle somewhere.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping, and it should have been this season, with the points deduction fiasco, 2 of them. I'm hoping that next season, particularly because it's our last in Goodison Park, and not to mention that the last 3 seasons have just been like one long, awful, stressful season. That next season is what this season should have been, whereas we're just mid-table, we're cruising, and you can see we're getting better. A couple new faces in, and hopefully all this PSR stuff is resolved and the rules are changed, and we can just get by and get to the new stadium without any stress of relegation. I think that's what should have been. But do you think without the points deduction this season, let's just say it went to the appeal or whatever, the investigation, and then the sanction was a fine or anything, do you think we'd have been on more points than we are now?
Oh, clearly, yeah.
Because we'd have 8 more. Let's say the 8 points are back on. Do you think we'd have even more?
Yes,
do you think we'd have gone 4 months?
No, I think we do. I think we would. Yeah, because uncertainty and doubt and those things bring fear, and we've talked about that on the channel quite a lot. So right now we would be sitting on, we know by mathematics, we just add 8 points to what 44. We've got. We'd be on 44. I think it's not unreasonable to think we may have had 5 points more than that, simply because we'd been a bit more stress-free.
Yeah.
And we might have settled for a draw somewhere where we went for a win because we felt we needed it, and all those sorts of things. So you put 12 on ours, we'd be 48, right? And obviously the goal difference would be slightly better as a consequence. We'd be 9, 10, 11.
Yeah.
Right? We'd be...
People Brighton, wouldn't we?
We'd be 5 points off Newcastle, right? Yeah. And that's the damage that the not fit for purpose PSR procedures caused to us, which they didn't cause to Nottingham Forest, for example. Right?
Yeah.
Because by the time Forest got to there, they'd got wise to the fact that this is all a bit stupid. You can't be giving clubs 10 points because there's obvious reasons why. Like, that's bigger than administration and all those sorts of things. They speeded it up a little bit by basically with bribes, like, if you help us do it quickly, we'll give you points back and stuff like that. So I think this squad, not strapped by point deductions, would have delivered 50 points.
Yeah.
And then who knows what getting on a good run instead of a 12-13 game, can't do anything. 1, 2, 3 wins in that period. Yeah. And I think I said this to Baz before he went on his holiday. If Sean Dyche during that long period when we didn't win a game had just done his career average points per game, we'd have had about 10 more points.
Yeah.
Just his career average with clubs like Watford and Burnley, we'd have about 10 more points. So doing what you've just said, add 10 points to that 46, add 8 to that that they took off us, and you're saying 54, which would be now.
Yeah.
Which is madness, because 54 is above Newcastle, right? So that's all sunny day plan stuff.
We're in for Europe there, aren't you?
Well, yeah. You'd be in the conference, right? We'd be fighting with Newcastle for the conference, right? And Man United have only got 54, right? So, but that's your sunny day plan, ifs and buts. If we'd had 3 penalties against us against Forest, we'd have 3 points left, and so on. So you can't play that game.
Yeah.
But what you can do is go into a new season that, as long as we as a club balance the outgoings, clearly Dan Juma will go, Gomez will go, so we'll end up with less numbers in the squad. As long as we can balance those with players who can fill those slots, which are fundamentally on the bench type slots, aren't they? And the challenges we have, particularly at right back, why wouldn't we repeat that sort of performance again next season?
Yeah, if not improve on it. And I know you do say it's all if buts and maybes. It's a bit like with Forest now. It's a bit like saying a team that didn't have a penalty and lost the game should have had a penalty. There's no saying that they'd have scored that penalty.
True.
But they could have they could have got another point out of the game. They could have got 3 points out of the game. But at least in our situation, by minimum, we'd be on the same point as Brighton, given those points weren't taken off us. Brighton, who, there's a perception around the club that they're really well ran.
Same with Brentford to some degree.
Yeah, and then the perception around us that we're not well ran, which is
we're not. We haven't been.
Which is we
haven't.
It's why we're in this the state that we're in. But I think it just goes to show not whether it's a good or bad job that Sean Dyche has done, but he has done a job getting us to where we are. You can't argue that it's a massive improvement without the team necessarily improving that much either, I must say.
Yeah. Well, his career average is low 40 points.
Yeah.
And this is the best squad he's ever had. And I think he and Kevin Thelwell must be setting out their stall to say, what is our points target for next season? And I think there's, Evertonians are watching this and you think, well, whatever we get this season plus 8 must be the minimum we expect next season, isn't it? We might argue that the teams coming up may be stronger than Sheffield and Burnley and Luton, but maybe they won't be. Leicester might be, but we've seen with Burnley you can run away with the Championship, but it all changes when you get to the Premier League. You know? So whilst this is perceived to be a weak year, and maybe it's the best one to have got -8 points probably, I think you've got to minimally, whatever the outturn is for this season, add 8 to it, and that's got to be the minimum target for next season.
Yeah, and it's interesting when Dyche said the other day, this is probably the best job he's done, or the most he's achieved, because we don't know what's going on, behind the scenes. Some of that stress gets taken off his shoulders, or responsibilities. As soon as we get these owners in, basically, and we get a new CEO and all this stuff, then he can probably focus on the football then and kick on a little bit rather than having most of the responsibility.
Well, I don't think the manager has been, or indeed his players, are distracted per se by that noise.
Yeah.
But it's easy to say that it shouldn't worry them, but they're human.
Yeah.
I mean, we did it, me and Ped here yesterday, If he's the sort of person who worries about the off-field stuff that you shouldn't worry about, and I'm not, because I can just compartmentalise it, then if we're a fair view of human society sort of thing, then that means at least half the players are like Ped and half are like me. The reality is there's all these points in between as well. And then players like Paul Dwight McNeil has personal challenges as well that are going on. And then you've got players trying to recover from injury and all those sorts of things. So you just don't need the extra grief that comes from, oh, by the way, you might go into administration next week.
Yeah.
Or tomorrow, as some people would try and convince you, you know.
And it's no surprise that the manager has had to face more questions about ownership and point deductions and appeals and investigations this season than he's had to face questions about injuries and player development. But as soon as the club has people to answer those questions before they need to be asked, then he doesn't have to be involved with all this stuff, and that's really, I think that's a lot more important than people realise, especially on the players. If their managers in the press conference talking about they could be relegated because of points deduction and whatever, they're focused on the job to try and stay up because of the points deduction. Really, they just want to focus on the football, don't they? So let's get into some comments anyway.
Yeah, well, while you're finding the comments, I think Everton could help themselves and us if they had a spokesperson.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that when Sean gets, I mean, if he wants to answer them, he answers them. If he doesn't, he just says, listen, speak to Ned, you know, and he's available as soon as this press conference is completed, because this is his responsibility to explain to you what's going on with the stadium, or what's going on with 777, or what's going on with the points deductions. I'm just here for sport, you know.
And ultimately questions that have been building up to be asked over many days, because you'll hear news about the ownership or whatever, points deduction, or real changes in the Premier League. They'll be built up over days, and you'll hear them being asked. You'll hear the manager being asked about them days later in a press conference. If you've got a really good PR team or communications director, those things don't need to be asked because they've been addressed.
Well,
by
you're
the club
engaging
already
with the media all the time.
Yeah.
So stuff.
Gary Waters, howdy.
Hi, Gary.
Derek says, this was the Sean Dyche I pictured when we got him. Good to see he's able to let his personality come out a little. Would like to see some of the younger players get some minutes over the last few matches. You mean like you'd pictured him in a trackie or in a Blossoms music video? No, yeah, it's no secret that Sean Dyche does put his faith in experience. We've seen it with him bringing Ashley Young into the club. We've seen it probably with him starting Michael Keane over Branthwaite at the start of the season. Jared Branthwaite had to earn that trust, and even though it was probably quite evident in training that Jared Branthwaite was probably a better centre-back than Michael Keane. But what I would say is, regardless of the age, once you do earn Sean Dyche's trust, like Jared Branthwaite has proven, then he backs you. We've seen it with Branthwaite, obviously, is the easy example, but we've also seen it with, he's more likely to get Chimiti on than a Dan Juma, because he trusts Chimiti to do a job that he wants him to do. Where Dan Juma, who has got experience and is at a good age, doesn't quite get that trust to go onto the pitch and try and change a game or affect a game. We've seen it with Patterson, who is he's not young, he's probably 22, 23. He's not had a lot of game time this season. I'm looking at Dobbin. Dobbin had some game time on Monday, so maybe he might come back into it on Friday, or if not against Sheffield United or Arsenal. But he has, he's gave minutes to Dobbin this season, and Dobbin's popped up important signs. So against Chelsea, he got the goal to make it 2-0. So I don't see why he wouldn't if they've got the quality. But then again, I don't think there's a huge amount of young players that we can put our trust in to go out and do a job anyway.
I think what this manager will do is he'll pick his strongest team. Yeah. As he sees it.
Yeah.
Right now, the minimal objective has to be to finish above Brentford, because that's worth the prize money. There's a line of sight that if there's any faltering going on by those above us, but seem a bit distant, but you never know, do you? If Crystal Palace slip up, then there's another 2 or 3, 2.5 million quid, whatever it is. So, that money will push us safer as far as these PSR things are. So I don't think we necessarily have the luxury of playing kids just because they're kids, but he can make more use of his substitutions, particularly if we get ahead in games. If as you hope, we go to Luton and we're cruising 3-0, 2-0, we wish, don't we? But if we were, then where in the past he'd have said, I'll stick with what I've got, he might go, you know what, I will throw Chimiti on here and put Dobbin, out on one of the wings.
Even if it's the sole purpose is to rest Dominic Calvert-Lewin for the next game.
Well, that's right,
rather than get a youngster on.
Yeah.
But I think Sean Dyche, he is the type of manager to just do what's best to get the job done. And I think these days where a manager, if you've got youngsters coming in, by the time they could be in the first team, the manager's most likely to be gone anyway. So I don't think managers normally think about long-term developments, and that's probably why it's more important to get players out on loan these days. But no, I think you're right, John. I think if we do get a position where we can bring them on, he'd probably do it more likely to give someone a rest. But you've got to have you've got to have the quality. Along
if you look at our next
age.
2 games, and you do optimistic, which is we win both or we don't lose, then it puts a little bit of pressure on Palace, if indeed there is any pressure on them, because their fixtures are, they got Man United, I think, haven't they?
Yeah.
And Man United will want to finish in European places. Certainly the manager will want them to. And then they'll have Wolves away. And then both of us have challenges on the last day. We're away to Arsenal and Palace are at home to Villa, who will be wanting, presumably, if they haven't already done so by then, confirmed Champions League. So isn't it great we're talking about moving up the table to win money rather than worrying about going down the other way?
To lose a lot of money.
Yeah.
Evie has a question for Ped, but Ped isn't here, but I'll read it out anyway.
Okay.
Giving Deitch a new contract isn't something that needs to be discussed. Please, let's not forget the vast majority of this season has been utterly terrible. If we had any form of stability, he'd have been rightly out for the job after failing to win 15 games. I get the need and want to feel safe and secure, but him having a long-term deal is no guarantee of that. See where he is at the end of the contract. No team are going to come and try and get Sean Dyche, with all due to respect to him. Yes, he's done his job. He's earned being here at the start of the season, but making decisions based on emotions, feelings and recency bias is a bad idea. John was right. We give him a new deal and we could want him gone by Christmas. He is at best a wartime manager now. Let's see how we feel at the end of his deal. He isn't getting a better job, but we will always be able to get a better manager.
Who's that, sorry?
That is from Evie.
Thanks, Evie. I agree with pretty much all of that, except the very last bit where you said we can always get a better manager, because we've proven over the last 7 or 8 years that's not necessarily the case. But I do agree with your real point, which is there's no need to jerk into let's give him another couple of years here and now, because that's the sort of decision we would then repent at leisure if it turned out. Because clearly, if he went 13 games without winning again, he would get dismissed.
Yeah.
Right. But he has earned the right to try and get a strengthening of the squad in place for the start of next season, and then see what we can do. And I think if we get don't forget we had an awful start to this season.
Yeah.
If we get we don't even know what the fixtures are, do we? But if we get a decent start to next season, then he will have earned the right to say, look, this is what I really am, which is a 50 to 60 point manager, not a 40 to 45 point manager.
Yeah, and I also think to caveat that some teams, I don't think he's in a position where he deserves to be sacked right now. But I think also that shouldn't, if a better manager pops up, I don't think you should miss that opportunity. We've seen it with Bournemouth last season. Gary O'Neill done a really good job to keep them up. And they went, thank you, goodbye. We found a better manager. He started off really poorly. I thought they were nailed on to go down. After like 10 games, they were absolutely awful. And now what? They sit 10th, which is a crazy improvement. We've seen it with Brighton a few years ago when they first brought Graham Potter in. They shut the manager goodbye after keeping the Premier League. They brought Graham Potter in, and we saw how they evolved over the next few years. I think if a David Moyes becomes available, or someone who's glaringly obviously better than Deitch, I think you.
I think if there's a decision to be made in the summer, if there's a decision, it's because there's a manager that whoever makes the decision, which should be Kevin Thelwell, a recommendation ratified by the board, whoever the board is, that this new person, this available person, is, in the opinion of the sporting director, a better bet than the one we already have.
And a more fit for.
Yeah, and it's the same with players, isn't it? You let any player go if you think you've got a better one, either sat on the bench or in the academy, or you can do a deal on the same day, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And it would be an interesting one if and when he becomes available, whether we think is he an upgrade? Because whilst Ped was saying yesterday, and that's probably why the question was targeted as Ped, that he would give him a new contract because of, one less thing to change. I think he also said if David Moyes was available, he'd take him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how can you give Deitch a contract now and then
You can't.
6 months later go, see you later, mate. If I'm
of course you
better.
can't. You can't. There's no need to rush into anything. Yeah.
And that never means you think a manager deserves to be sacked or he hasn't done a job. I just think if a manager, it's like Mikalenko's done really well this season. He's improved loads, and I think he's a good left back. But if somebody a lot better becomes available and we get a chance to sign them, I'd shake his hand and say, thanks for that, mate. We've got someone better now.
Well, he becomes a squad player, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And that's what you try to do. Players who are starting, who you don't think are quite good enough, and clearly that's the situation at right back, regardless of who's there.
Yeah.
Then you think all of a sudden, the guy who wasn't good enough to start is a very good number 2.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So.
Mark says last time Everton played Luton in the league away was 1991.
Yeah.
So that would have been the last year of Division 1, wouldn't it? Because they've only played each other once in the Premier League.
Played each other very much now.
Who scored in a 1-0 win?
I can't remember. You need
91.
Baz for this. I can look it up. I'll do that while you're doing what you're doing. But yeah, because I guess he knows. Yeah.
I couldn't tell you.
I was there, and I don't know the score. But that's Baz for you, isn't it? He remembers everything.
I'm not going back before my time to watch highlights from a 1-0 win at Luton away. I'm not going to lie. Evie, yeah, that's not me dismissing that he's done a good job, by the way. He's done a decent job. I think he could have done even better if he had managed to get results against some truly shocking sides. But on the balance of he's done decent. We talk ourselves into making decisions too far quickly that don't have to be made, and it's pure out of fear. I think Everton have made those decisions in the past, but probably by influence of managers or owners or whatever. We've seen with the Michael Keane, the decision to give him a 5-year contract when really he should have been let go that summer.
Tim Cahill.
In 1991.
No, it wasn't in 1991.
Yeah.
Tim Cahill.
That would have been the FA Cup game.
League Cup.
Yeah, League Cup game.
Yeah.
In 2008 or something like that.
2007.
Yeah. 1991.
So we've lost twice to these guys, obviously during this season.
Yeah.
And we hadn't lost to them prior to then since crikey.
Were they both 2-1 at Goodison?
1987.
Yeah,
but that's because they've not been in the top flight, and if you don't get them in the cup, you don't play them.
Yeah.
Last time they were in the top flight was that season. No, it wasn't. It was 91, 92. Hang on a second. Let's do this.
Division 1, 1990. They weren't in the Premier League when it first started.
No, they weren't. They were in 91, 92. So the last game we played before in the league, until just now this season was a draw at home and a win away.
1-0 win away. Who scored?
Bobby the Pole. Robert.
See, I was going to say, I was thinking Tony Cottee at first. We hadn't signed him yet, had we?
No.
I was just thinking early 90s goal scorers.
So the team we played, we had Mike Newell up top. Yeah.
Gilly the Lemon does say Tony Cottee. But we signed Tony Cottee in 91, 92. Must have if he scored.
He didn't score in that game.
No.
Just said it. He didn't score in that game. Mike Newell was up from. Oh, we talked about Ray Atterveld yesterday when someone did those. What did they say? Start, bench, sell.
Oh,
Ray
yeah.
Atterveld was amongst that.
Who was the other?
Cottee came on, so he came on, so he was in the squad. Yeah,
they must have just signed him that year. Then.
He came on after an hour for Pat Nevin.
And
we talked about Peter Beardsley yesterday as well. He was in that team.
Peter Beardsley.
Dave Watson.
Underrated.
Last captain to hold anything. Andy Inchcliffe bores everyone to death.
Awful commentator.
On telly.
Seems to hate Everton now, him.
Yeah. Matt Jackson, who scored the first goal in the semi-final.
Matt Jackson.
Oh, that Southall bloke was playing as well.
Neville South.
But great player. But yeah, so we haven't played them that often over the years, but the last 2 times we played them, we've lost, so we need to sort that out tomorrow.
Yeah.
Oh, not tomorrow, Friday. I keep thinking today is Friday, never mind tomorrow.
I think seems like Luton, I think I fancy us more away than I do at home, to be honest. Obviously, the last 3 games at home have been a lot different than anything that
We need
we've
to
seen
play
the rest
our
of the
game,
season,
not their
but-
game. Yeah, so
Yeah. Gareth Hughes, hope you're well, mate. Asked for an update yesterday. 12 weeks and still in hospital. However, I stood up for the first time yesterday, which was a big step, and I've now been signed off to move to the rehab unit, where it's a lot more intense physical therapy. Target set for going home on the 15th of May, day before my birthday.
Couple of weeks.
So a light at the end of a long tunnel. Hats off and all my gratitude to the amazing NHS staff, from surgeons to support workers. I literally wouldn't be here without them. Nice one, Gar. I hope you do get home before your birthday and you can enjoy it with your family at home.
That'll be one party, won't it, eh?
Yeah, nice to see you getting better as well, mate. Buck says, I can imagine they're all on the grass after a week we've just had. On the grass, getting a feel for it. Jay Radcliffe says, John, in reality, how screwed are we? Is our future in real doubt with the 777 CAC? See, there seems to be a lot of scaremongering today. I got a message this morning off a mate saying, why are Everton going into administration?
We're not.
I said, we're not. Have you seen that?
We're not close.
It's all over the news. So, are we close to going into administration,
No.
John?
No.
So, this financial advisors that Everton are bringing in to help with financial restructuring, what does that mean exactly?
Well, imagine you as an individual get yourself in a mess, yeah? You owe somebody some money, perhaps a naughty money lender, you know. You've got some payday loan stuff, you've got too many credit cards, and you're in a mess. And you go off and get some advice, and they say, listen, Ned, you're paying huge interest here. What you need to do is to consolidate all this, if you can, into a simple, manageable loan, right? We can do that at a corporate level.
Yeah.
And that's in essence what Everton want to do. Now, whoever come in, be it 777 or whoever, would restructure our debt profile, okay? And that can't wait. That's something that needs to be done because we're burning money with high interest rates and those sorts of things. So they've brought in, you know, a global firm. Now, the interesting thing is, you know, you get a journalist, he goes on a website and he puts in the name of the company and it comes up and says what they are. But this is a huge company, okay? And actually, I don't think insolvency advisory is one of their UK products, Restructuring and giving you advice about a load of all other things, all of which Everton perhaps need. In fact, because you said you get questions, I got questions. So let me just read the answer out what I gave to the guy the other day when he was asking me the same thing. Where are we? Who was it? Probably won't be able to find it, will I? So their major UK offerings are strategy and comms. Yeah, we need some of that. Management consulting, that's just very generic stuff. Financial risk and people advisory, probably need all of those. But they're a restructuring company as much as an insolvency company.
Yeah.
It's just that journalist went with the clickbait version.
The insolvency.
Yeah, which tries to imply without saying it that Everton are approaching insolvency.
Yeah.
Therefore, they've got these guys in to help them. And of course, if you're approaching insolvency, the product of you did become insolvent would be administration. Yeah. But as we discussed yesterday, if a big creditor said, I want my money back and I want it right now, then it's possible, if not probable, in those circumstances that we would go into administration. But they'd catch a cold if they did that. So why would they do it?
Yeah.
And this is why you find MSP extending maybe once or twice the arrangement that they had before.
Yeah. So, in plain English, we're not entering administration right now.
Absolutely.
And we're not close to it. So, any Reds that keep messaging me saying, administration, it's not happening. Not right now,
I've
anyway.
often said, and I'll say it again now because you've mentioned some Reds, that if we get close to administration, I very much doubt we'll go as close as Liverpool did.
Yeah, well, they would.
Liverpool got to within
weren't
an hour of going into administration, because we will either defo go into administration or we won't get that close.
Yeah,
one or the other. But yeah, I mean, the promised land, as I keep saying, is just across the water there. It's within arm's reach, but that doesn't mean it's easy.
Yeah.
Because one person's we're not close as another person's, oh my God, I'm going to worry about it all day, every day.
Yeah.
You know, I'm talking about you, Kev, if you're watching.
Yeah.
And that's the point, really. You just need to be pragmatic about it. the indicators that would give an indication that we are in real difficulties, there's none of them showing at the moment.
Yeah.
So hence, we're not close.
A few people in the comments saying Tony Cottee did play in that game.
Yeah, he came on as a sub after 59 minutes.
Signed in 88, 89 season.
Yeah,
then.
that's right, yeah.
Let's have a look.
For a lot of money in the day. Record breaker, wasn't he, I think?
Yeah.
Hat-trick on his debut.
Where are we at here? Book says, you know when you say Tracky Deitch, do we say it like Martin Freeman on the responder?
I don't know, how would that be?
Isn't he? Is Martin Freeman is that the Scouse Police TV show? I've never seen it.
Oh, yeah, is that the one where he plays a Scouser?
Yeah,
I think it is, isn't it?
Apparently he nailed the accents.
Yeah, he's very good.
I like Martin Freeman.
Yeah.
He's when people always say to Baz,
was it Martin Freeman?
It was Martin Freeman, yeah.
He wasn't the one who played Dr. Watson, was he?
Not that I'm aware of.
So it's the guy who was in Line of Duty.
I couldn't say he was in Line of Duty. He's in loads. Martin Freeman. He's in like.
I don't know. I've lost the plot.
He's in The Hobbit.
Yeah.
Martin
oh
Freeman.
Right. So it is the one who played Watson. So yeah. Okay.
I always say he should play Baz in a film about Toffee TV.
You reckon?
Or just Baz. Yeah.
Right.
Paul Callow says, John,
I don't know how sorry, cutting you off. I don't know how Ned's just managed to say he's a hobbit and I think he should play Baz.
Not because he is a hobbit. I just think he'd be a great fit for
Baz.
Baz.
Watches this, mate, you're in trouble.
No, and now we can
It reminds you how much shorter than him you are.
And now we can do a Scouse accent.
All right.
And I should be played by someone tall and handsome. Paul Callow says, John, what's your take on the Esks post on Twitter? I will return tomorrow to answer any early questions. But just to establish a couple of things. One, Everton received some funding to meet our monthly obligations, but not from the source quoted extensively in the media. Two, the Bonza situation has a considerable knock-on effects for 777 and associated companies, more tomorrow. And three, the company's secure. The club is secure between now and the end of the season. Four, those waiting in the wings continue to be ready to acquire the club at the appropriate time, which is not too far away. And when he says those waiting in the wings, I'm guessing he means other potential investors.
I don't know, mate. They're faceless and they're anonymous, and I don't know where the wings are that they're waiting in. But, you know, if you're waiting for your competitor to fall over before you try and steal their cake, your problem is if they don't fall over, you don't get near your cake, do you?
Yeah.
Clearly, these are vultures circling, hoping to pick up pieces, right? As far as the other two things are concerned, there's a clear perception there that what's not good for 777 as a corporation is not good for their potential acquisition of Everton. Now, clearly, they are linked, but no one knows where the funding and that they're getting for Everton is coming from, per se. And the airline falling down doesn't help.
No.
But clearly, I mean, you asked me two questions in a row, and Paul's doing there. You know, we're okay till the end of the season. So there you go. Administration's not imminent, is it? Right?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's all very vague, I suppose. And if you follow the guy, then when he writes his stuff, you'll be able to read it.
So when you say the potential vultures.
Yeah.
If that's the way they're looking at it, are they waiting for a possibility of administration to try and get Everton, as cheap as possible, which would be in a state of insolvency?
Listen, let's be careful here, because I've just said vultures, and that can be emotive and sound critical. Yeah. They clearly want whoever they are, if they exist.
Opportunists, we could say.
If they exist, and people are faceless and anonymous, and they've sat on their hands for 9 months, then it's hard to say they stand ready to move in, right? They clearly want the environment and the circumstances to be optimal for what they want to do, right? And if these are the sorts of people who are talking about administration is not necessarily a bad thing, then I don't have any time for them, right? But I also said way back last year that if it was me and I wanted to buy Everton, I'd buy them just before they go into administration. I'd stop administration from happening because I bought them, because that might suggest to me in the cold light of day, plan the dive, dive the plan, that's the best price I'm going to get out of Mashiri, is when he has to sell.
Yeah.
When he can see he's going to get nothing, anything I give him is going to be better than nothing.
Pretty much getting him out of the mud.
So being a vulture, just circling, waiting your moment to swoop in, doesn't necessarily mean that you're a horrible person.
No.
But you are looking after your own best interests.
Yeah. I'd probably say more opportunist then.
Yeah.
Vulture,
well, opportunist is different because the opportunity has been there since last September.
Yeah.
Right? And indeed, it was there before last September because MSP had first dibs at it. Right? And it didn't happen. And then 777 followed those. Yeah. So it's just wait and see. It always has to be wait and see. I, for the life of me, have no idea why anybody who's got the funding to come and acquire Everton and to do the sort of stuff that needs to be done, like the restructuring, complete the stadium and so on, wouldn't have already shown their hand. I know people hide behind exclusivity, this, that and the other, but a charm offensive on the Everton fan base would have gained significant traction, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
And therefore, the danger is that if you suddenly pop up, and when we're in our darkest hour, you can be seen as the hero for saving us from administration.
Yeah.
But it is a bit of a who blinks first type behaviour. And so let's wait and see. But I don't expect to hear anything new. The curiosity is the money didn't come from where people think it comes from. Well, we're told it come from 777. So Paul's going to tell us it came from somebody else. That'll be interesting.
Yeah.
And if he doesn't say it didn't come from who it does come from, then I don't know what that means. Yeah, I don't know what that means. So.
Well, I suppose we'll find out tomorrow. He has said that himself. So.
Well, that was yesterday. So tomorrow is today.
Hopefully find out today.
Yeah. And because Paul's got some insight and he's got some contacts and stuff, so he may have some new news, which would be interesting.
If you can clarify some of his points.
Cool.
Then. Mark says, I don't know if you've seen this, John, but Ned, can John clarify the new spending rules? TalkSport says 2 rules. We will be limited by 85% revenue protection for the big 6. Had to catch them.
There's a curiosity here, and I've written an article for the Substack, which I've sent to the editor, so I don't know when that'll get published, maybe tomorrow.
Yeah.
But in very, very simple terms, the Premier League have had a meeting, and they've fundamentally voted to change the PSR. And they've sent some guys off, ladies presumably as well, to come up with a new mechanism. The expectation is that mechanism will be based upon what UEFA used to call the squad ratio thing, which is fundamentally, instead of, breaching the rules, is fundamentally about profit and loss, which is what's happened since 2013 when these rules were put in place. They're going to move it to be just the spend on players. So it's wages, transfer fee amortization, and agents' fees and stuff like that. It'll still be based over your 3-year thing, but what you're allowed to spend, it's thought, is going to be a multiple of the lowest broadcast income that one of the members gets, which is the 20 Premier League clubs. If you looked at last season's, then the least money went to Southampton, and they got just over 103 million quid. And there's a rumour that they want to do a multiple of that of maybe 5, right? So you're getting 500 plus million. So if you want to just do a dead simple comparator, it would be where the threshold right now under the current rules is 105 million over 3 years. It would be over 500 over 3 years instead. So very few clubs will breach it, right?
You'd be allowed to lose over 500 million over 3 years.
Well, it's not about losses. It's about how much you've spent on players, right, in aggregate. So all that needs to be worked out. And the Premier League are hoping to vote upon it in their general meeting in June. But seems we're already into May, so I guess if they need more time, they'll take more time. But the new rules won't come into place till the start of season 25-26.
Do you think that...
So the current PSR will still be here next season.
Do you think those new PSR rules will weigh in favour to... a big 6 club more than the current rules do now?
And the question is insightful, because if it was implemented the same way as UEFA had, which is it's based on revenue, so the bigger the revenue, the more money you could spend, then it would just persist with the status quo. but it appears the 14 clubs, they're the small ones, remember them, right?
Yeah.
That they're getting their act together, and Steve Parish seems to be a bit of, the chair at Crystal Palace seems to be a bit of a spokesperson at the moment. And he or they are trying to not have it. They want a fixed cap where everyone has the same cap, which is where this multiplier of the broadcast income has come
Would
from.
that be the same number or like the same equation?
Same number for everybody.
Right.
So with UEFA, the target is 70% of turnover. So if your turnover is $1 billion, you can spend 700 million. If my turnover is only 500 million, I can only spend 350. That perpetuates the biggest stay the biggest. Yeah, and that's how UEFA do it. What Steve Parish and others, I think, are saying is, no, we want everyone to have the same number.
Why wouldn't we're in lower league?
Which is probably why Man City voted against it. So.
Maybe it's to do with something with the difference in the amount of money being thrown around. Why wouldn't they have a real-time financing system like they do in the lower leagues, where you have to have that money to be able to put it in?
Because ultimately the 20 clubs vote on it, and if they don't vote on it in favour, they don't do it.
Yeah.
But I think they are moving towards not so much real time, but not having, waiting a whole year before suddenly someone fills a form in.
Yeah.
They'll look at it almost month by month. And if they do a common platform, then you'll be able to look in, they being the Premier League or the regulator, will be able to look inside your books and at least see how you are.
That the revenue is there, so it's a bit more secure.
How you are in comparison to the target. Yeah.
Yeah. I suppose it's a bit like being promised a mortgage, isn't it? If the bank can see that you're getting this income every month, it's like, all right, well, here's the money then. You can see you're getting this month, rather than, can I have 100 grand? Can I have 100 grand mortgage? I'll get a new job next year.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
But anyway, there'd been an article there on the More Than a Game Substack. So if you can share that with people sometime, Ned, that would be helpful. It's free, people, so just go for it.
I've just put the link to the Substack in the comments. I'll check that out.
And you'll see the articles which the Substack's been doing now for a number of months, all about this, and see the UEFA version, and then how the Premier League may interpret that, and what it all means.
Yeah.
It's easier to read about than listen, because you can see it on paper. It's better. Yeah.
Bit of a change in topic. Steve Hardy says, "Hi guys, currently sat on a beach in Tunisia with a beer."
Oh, thanks for that, mate. Are you allowed to kick people off? It's like Baz. The pair of them are just lying by blue water and stuff.
It's getting Baz keeps sending me pictures on like round a pool.
Well, he did it again yesterday. Was he on roller coasters?
He's done another one half an hour ago.
Busch Gardens he was on, yeah.
Very relaxed after the recent 9 points. Are you concerned about the transfer business we need to do in the pre-season? Anyone on the free list you fancy? Tete at Fulham, perhaps. Well, this was mentioned in the press conference, wasn't it? Sean Dyche was basically saying we've got a list, but we need to know where we're at with the finances, and that's ultimately why everything that's going on now behind the scenes has to get done. If this ownership can come in, as soon as possible, we can find out where we're finishing in the Premier League, if we do any more points back or any more points taken off, which is highly doubtful. Then right now it is anyway.
See, those comments, small c, concern me.
Yeah.
Because business goes on. The business is a going concern. It still has to do the things the business has to do. It has to set its budget for the next financial year, which starts on July the 1st. It has to set that budget based on assumptions, and then it has to determine how much of that budget can be spent on players, how much is already committed, i.e. players we've already got, and therefore how much do we need to, or do we have available to strengthen the squad. Waiting for new owners to do that is just not on.
Well, they should really. The footballing side should have. They should have a list on players
I'm
targets.
Sure they do.
Yeah. Based on what they have got to spend, and as soon as they find out what they've got to spend, right? Well, we've got this money available now, so we can go after them. And if we've not, well, we've got this list of people on frees or youngsters, and I imagine they will be trying to go and get after those cheap young players, which we should have been done anyway. We've been linked with loads of players, a couple of players from Ireland, stuff like that. So,
let's not bore people to death with it, but budget planning is a fundamental to business.
Yeah.
And it won't just be assumptions around how much might new players cost you. It's going to be how you're going to fund them. And part of that funding is clearly which players you're going to sell. And that came out in the press conference as well, didn't it?
Yeah.
Not which we want to sell, but...
And which players do we want to renew contracts?
All of that. So, and that's where the Pickford conversation comes in, that the manager was faced with in the press conference.
So like you said, Jordan Pickford linked with Chelsea by TalkSport, just a link, nothing, I wouldn't say anything strong in it, but I suppose he is one of those most valuable assets in our team. I imagine if Everton were to sell anyone this summer, it would be a Branthwaite or Nana. But if an offer comes in for Pickford, do you think they'd entertain it?
I think, like any decision on players, if someone offers more than we think he's worth, then you say yes. Of course you do. But if we're going to sell any player to Chelsea, I want the sort of crazy sort of transfer fees that Brighton enjoyed.
Yeah.
You know, you're talking about quite a lot for England's number one and all that.
A lot more than what we paid
and
for
clearly, us securing our Premier League future actually probably puts many millions on Pickford's price, because he may have wanted to move if we got relegated. I don't think he would, because I agree with the manager. I think he's settled and he quite likes the idea of doing 10 years at this football club. But, you know, if Chelsea come along, offer him stupid salary and offer us a stupid transfer fee, who knows?
Yeah. I imagine they'll still be kind of moving ahead with this model of, you know, low risk experience type signings. You know, we saw we had a link yesterday with Ndidi from Leicester, and that would be the type of signing I can imagine from the club at this moment. At this moment, we need a midfielder. Likelihood that Gomez leaves, Idrissa Gana is no sign that he's going to be sticking around yet. But Ndidi, 27 years of age, loads of Premier League experience. Obviously he's been at Leicester for a few years now, free in the summer. I imagine type of players like that with experience in the Premier League, low risk signings.
Well, it's interesting because clearly in the last independent commission, Kevin Thowell described the player recruitment strategy, and it wasn't buying experienced players. It was about clearly getting value, but buying younger players who we can develop, either put them in our team or sell them for a profit.
Yeah.
Now, clearly you have to balance your team. And part of the discussions that must go on between the director of football and the manager is, how is our balance between experienced Premier League stalwarts, if you will? Let's just pick one, Michael Keane, right? Do you keep him simply because he's experienced, or do you get a young centre-back who's going to be the replacement for Branthwaite and let Michael Keane go? They're the sort of discussions that they have to have, and it can't keep falling back on if they've got experience or want to keep them, because we need to get out of this reiterative loop that we've been in of allowing players to run their contracts down and walk out the door for nothing.
Yeah. I think once the club or team moves away from this, you know, the situation it has been in the past 3 years, where the goal is to avoid relegation, and really that should have been, like I said before, that should have been this season if it wasn't for the points deduction fiasco. I think maybe he puts more faith into these signings where you do take a bit more risk on them. Maybe they come in from a league, never played in the Premier League before, a bit younger, and you put a bit more trust in them.
I think the decision that's first on the list is what we're doing with Dominic Calvert-Lewin.
Yeah. Well, if
they cannot let Dom run his contract
If
down.
they're going to give him a new contract, I think they should be doing it.
Yeah, can't let him run his
as soon
contract
as possible.
down.
Yeah. James Wallen says, watch John's video on the new accounting practice by Everton. Came out of that thinking he is good. There is good change. We get 0 point deduction before the start of the season. Good chance we get. I'm guessing that should have meant chance, yeah.
Yeah.
We get 0 point deduction before the start of the season. How are we looking towards next year's PSR?
I think the current view is we will breach again. But obviously we have an opportunity to sell players between now and the end of the financial year. Transfer window will be open. So it's possible that we will sell somebody to balance the books before the end of the financial year, at the end of June.
Yeah. Michael Rafferty says, come on, John, why don't you just buy us?
I had to look down the sofa and my loose change has gone.
Yeah. We'll put 2. James says, I'm hearing on TalkSport we're going to need to sell Pickford. Well, that's the thing. Obviously, if we are in breach of PSR as it currently stands, and an offer comes in, and one doesn't for Onana and Branthwaite, then they probably think, well, Jordan Pickford's an asset, we'll sell. But I'd say it's probably most likely that the said player that would probably be sold would be Onana or Branthwaite.
Well, the expectation is, out of any players, of the most likely player to leave before the start of next season, we'll call it, will be Onana. But let's see how Nottingham Forest get on with their appeal, because they chose not to sell their player and comply with the rules. They chose to get the extra 20 million quid and get referred to an independent commission. Everton may conclude keeping your players, at least until after the Euros in Onana's case, is a better business decision, notwithstanding it might mean you breach PSR.
Yeah. Graham Rogers says, classic example to support Ned is Boniface. We didn't want to pay 20 million euros up front for a Swiss league player, now one of the hottest prospects in Europe. Well, yeah, and I suppose because we so desperately needed a striker, and if we hadn't got one, we'd be in big trouble. Certainly after the first few games, or first few performances last season, where it was evident that we needed, a striker. They probably thought, let's try and get someone who's got a bit more experience in a better league. Beto came up available. We wouldn't have to pay anything up front. They might have wanted to structure a deal where they wanted, more money up front, and that might not have been able for us to pull off. And imagine they went to negotiations with loads of clubs for players and just couldn't pull a deal off.
We were clearly constrained by available funds. Yeah,
I think if the funds were there, in the past 3 years, I think we would have ended up with people like Maxwell Cornet rather than a Dwight McNeil. But I think it's all about how you structure a deal as well. But if we find out what we've got available to spend in the summer, then we might have a bit more leeway. John says we should sell Onana for 60 million on June the 30th, finish buying back on July the 1st for 60 million. Profit and sustainability sorted. Not quite. That's how it works. But if an offer comes in for 60 million, Onana, I think I'm definitely.
It would be really funny if someone like Chelsea did something like that and say, "Well, that's counting rules. That's fine."
Yeah. Phil says, "Can we sell Goodison Park to ourselves?"
No, it's not worth anything.
I'll do a couple more. I'll do one more refresh. Let's have a look. Buck says, guys, I became a member the other day and asked to claim my discount merchandise. Just message us, mate. Give us a message. Good show, guys. Nice and relaxed, but is that because where we are?
No, it's because Ped's wasn't here. He is now, so it'll get noisy in a minute.
James says, can't we just sell Beto? He's not exactly improved the squad, has he? I
think he did improve the squad because we didn't have anyone when he joined.
Yeah, I think
he needs minutes.
Yeah, I think he needs more Premier League experience just to get up to the.
Yeah, he's a handful in the right time, and that's why DCL is a big decision, because I think the real query there is if Dominic won't sign a new contract and therefore we sell him, I don't think we necessarily would be happy with Beto being our number one striker for the season.
No. Yeah.
So then you've got the challenge of getting somebody else who can contribute goals rather than a centre forward.
Yeah. Right, we'll leave it there then. We've done an hour. Are we doing the club call later? Yeah. Right, club call, 5 o'clock. Premier members, make sure you phone in and just let us know how good it feels to be safe. Let us know what you're doing. Let us know what your plans are for the summer now that you know that we can relax. Yeah, thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks to John for joining me. If you're not a Premier member, then join Premier and you can call in later. It's literally cheaper than a Costa Coffee for the month. And you can call and have a chat with John and Ped later on the show. But yeah, thanks for watching and we'll see you later.